this video, I'm going to give you step-by-step instruction on how to carve this flag. If this is something that you're interested in, you're going to want to stick around. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Edgar with AE Timber and Pine, and in this video, I'm going to share with you how to carve this Patriot Nation Designs design. It's the tattered firefighter design. You don't really have to do a whole lot on this flag. You really just have to resize it to the final dimensions of your final flag. But because I am going to tile it, I want to show you how I went about it. That's the only complexity that was added to this particular carve, just the fact that I had to tile it. That's really the only thing that we're going to worry about. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Let me show you how to tile and give you some tips along the way.
So jumping into Carbide Create, the very first thing that you want to do, just like anything, is import and resize your flag to the size or to the dimensions that you're going to carve. So in this particular case, it's going to be a 19.5 inch wide flag by 36 inches wide. Sorry, let me say that again. It's 19.5 inches tall and 36 inches wide. Once I have the flag imported, as many of you know, I like to copy this final stripe or one of the final lower stripes and attach them to the stripe. That way I can get good, correct sizing and spacing throughout the flag when I do resize it. So I have an extra one here at the bottom and an extra one here at the top. Once I'm done resizing, I can go ahead and delete them. Since I am done resizing, I'll go ahead and delete them now. The next thing I want to do is I want to start grouping my toolpaths. Because it is a tiling job, I want to go ahead and kind of get that out of the way now. So the first thing that I did is I just started grouping everything as I will cut them in their tiles. So on the right hand side, or the first tile here on the right hand side, I have the stripes, and I'm going to go ahead and do this firefighter and all this over here that's selected. On the second tile, this left hand side, I have the stars and the other stripes here grouped as well. One thing I do want to mention is that when you purchase this file or any file, double check it, take a look at it. Sometimes there's a lot of detail that your CNC is not going to be able to carve. So I recall that there were a lot of extra vectors here just throughout the entire image. And what I did is I just went in there and I started deleting some of these extra vectors. So I just recommend going into a file, any file, when you purchase it, and looking over the vectors to make sure that there aren't too many details that you can't carve, and get rid of them. Since this is a very simple design, it's already created, there's not much more that I have to do other than resizing it. And so what I'm going to go into now is just the tiles. So my tiles are sized at 18.5 inches wide, which is half of 36, and the height stays the same, 19.5. I'm going to grab this node and I'm going to attach it to the grid just like that. My cutting area for my CNC is approximately 33 inches by 33 inches. But my tile is only 18 inches wide and 19.5 inches tall. So that means that I do have some wiggle room. I do have the ability to carve something greater than this, since I don't want to mess around with the Boolean intersection here and worry about all these different vectors that I'm going to be splitting. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to keep this entire firefighter image and these shreds here, this tattered look over here, I'm going to keep that all within this one tile. So the tile itself is actually going to be more of a reference when I actually tile on the actual CNC wasteboard. Once I'm done with this tile, I'm going to move the flag down and make sure that this 18-inch mark that is on the actual material is at the edge of my wasteboard. So you'll see that here shortly. For this tile, I'm not actually going to do any Boolean intersection, which is typically what you would do on a tiling job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all my groups here on this first tile. So I'm going to click on my stripes, hold shift, select my firefighter, and I'm going to hold shift and select my tile and group all this. Now when I go to carve this, I can just bring this tile in. I'm going to go ahead and set up my next tile just by bringing it over to the grid, holding shift and selecting all my groups. And this tile is done. Now that my tiles are set up, I want to go ahead and readjust my job setup. I'm going to flip these numbers because I can't carve this flag in the horizontal position as it is right now. I can't carve this because it extends outside the cutting area and it'll get hit by my rails on the sides. So I need to be able to flip this. I'm going to carve it vertically. So it's 19.5 by 36. What I need to do with my tiles now is I need to rotate them to 270 degrees, and that gets them aligned or rotated correctly. Let's talk about toolpaths real quick. I'll just go over the toolpaths that I use for this project. For my first toolpath on the firefighter, I used a advanced V-carve toolpath. I enabled the area pocket tool, and I used a 1/8 inch end mill. The plunge and feed rate were 80-90, the RPM was 18,000. I finished it off with a 60-degree V-bit, and the plunge and feed rate are also 80 and feed rate 90. The max depth that I chose to carve was 0.04. For the stripes, I used a advanced feed carve again. This time I used a 201 or quarter-inch end mill with the same settings, plunge rate at 80, feed rate at 90, RPM at 18,000, and used a 60-degree V-bit as well to clean it up. And plunge and feed rate are also the same, 80-90, RPM at 18,000. The max depth stays the same at 0.04. The stripes on the second tile are going to be the exact same thing. It's a quarter-inch end mill with the pocket area enabled. Plunge and feed rate 80-90, RPM 18,000. The V-bit is going to clean it up. The 60-degree V-bit is going to clean it up. Plunge rate again 80-90, RPM 18,000. Same max depth, 0.04. We want to keep everything proportional. The stars are going to be carved with a V-carve only, a V-carve toolpath, and the plunge and feed rate are 80-90 with RPM of 18,000. The depth per pass that I'm going to use is 0.15. The max depth is set to stock bottom. As you can see here, we have a very good simulation, so we just have to run these tiles. One thing that I did decide to do to make sure that my alignment is correct is I did run an advanced V-carve on these two vectors here, just these two vectors alone. I did this because I wanted to make sure that my alignment was correct, so before actually running the entire tile and then finding out after the fact that maybe my alignment was off, I wanted to actually test it out on two vectors that are just small, inconspicuous, really. You'll see in a moment that my alignment was slightly off. So that's just something to keep in mind if you want to just check your alignment before actually running the entire second tile. You can pick out a couple of vectors just to test the alignment. Let me go ahead and show you some video clips of me carving this now and also readjusting or realigning for the second tile. So let's go ahead and jump into that now.
Alright guys, so it did move up into this line here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to move my x-axis to the left slightly, based off of the reference here at this, it was at this corner, right? So if I move my x-axis to the left slightly, it should then move the carving to the right, which it would not then have cut into this line. So that's kind of the thought process on that. So I'm going to move it ever so slightly because it just ever so slightly went into this line. So not a whole lot, but I'm going to maybe go 3 clicks, and it's just all trial and error. There's nothing specific. There's no calculation to do. It's just all trial and error. So let's go ahead and do that now. I didn't re-record the second pass after adjusting my X to the left 3 clicks at the lowest interval. The reason being is because there's no more staying here to take off, so you can't really tell. But I was able to see with my eyes that it wasn't going up as far into this strap. I actually don't think it went into this strap at all, or this line, I should say. With that being said, I feel more confident now that this is going to carve the stripes in line or even with these stripes here on the right hand side, or more so than it would have been had I not made that adjustment. So let's go ahead and run these stripes. We're going to reset our Z0 on top of this area here, and we're going to go ahead and do a separate toolpath for the stars and reset the Z0 above in this general area. So let's go ahead and do that now.
Even though you can get some designs already pre-made and you really don't have to do anything to them, you can still add some customizations to them. If you want to see how I customize a prefabricated or ready to go design, go ahead and click on your screen right now and I'll see you there.